So Monday's lesson, Revelation 7, 4 through 8. I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000. I'm not going to read all of 12 tribes. This is a symbolic or literal number? Symbolic represented, who is symbolically represented by this group? That's one view, exactly. One view. It says in the first paragraph, the announcement of the number of those who are sealed marks the completion of the sealing. John hears the number as 144,000 for the 12 tribes. The reference here is not a literal number, but to what it signifies. The number 144,000 consists of 12 times 12 times 1,000. 12 is a symbol of God's people. The tribes of Israel and the church were built upon the foundation of the 12 apostles. Thus, the number 144,000 stands for the totality of God's end-time people, all Israel, Jews and Gentiles who are ready for Christ's return and who will be translated without seeing death. So, symbolically represents either, and I'm going to tell you one possibility is what they say. This is not the only possibility, but it is possible. This could be what it means. I actually like another view, but again, it's not something we have to be hard and fast on. The 12 tribes, you remember in the Old Testament, were on the four corners, north, 3 on the north, 3 on the east, 3 on the west, 3 on the south. So it represents symbolically peoples from all over the world in the symbolism there. So the 12 tribes here at the end of time represent peoples from all over the world. I think we would all agree with that. There are two possibilities. One is 144,000 represents the saved, the great multitude, and the 140,000 are exactly the same at the end of time. Or that they represent two different groups. The 144 is a subset of all the saved. One piece of evidence identifying the 144,000 that the lesson didn't address, I'm going to address, is in verse 3. And in verse 3, it describes the 144,000, the sealed, as, quote, the servants of God, or the servants of our God. And in Bible symbolism, servants are attributed to a specific group. And I'm going to just give you some of the text from the Old Testament. There's many more, and I want you to notice how widespread through the Old Testament you find this. 2 Kings 17:23, until the Lord removed them from his presence, and he had warned, as he warned through all his servants, the prophets. That's Kings. Here's Ezra 9, 10, 11. And now, O our God, what can we say after this? For we have disregarded the commands you gave through your servants, the prophets. Jeremiah 7:25. From the time your forefathers left Egypt until now, day after day, again and again, I sent you my servants, the prophets. Ezekiel 38:17. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Are you not the one I spoke of in my former days by my servants, the prophets? Daniel 9:6. We have not listened to your servants, the prophets, who spoke in your name to our kings. Amos 3:7. Surely the sovereign Lord does nothing without revealing his plan to his servants, the prophets. Zechariah 1:6. But did not my words and my decrees, which I commanded my servants, the prophets, overtake your forefathers? Did you notice how many different Bible writers refer to the servants of God as his prophets? The 144,000 are specifically called the servants of God. Well, when we think about prophets, these are not primarily people who prognosticate or predict future events. The prophets that are being referred to, if you notice historically through the Old Testament, are people who lived in that time and came from God to the people at that time for a message for them at that time. They were his spokespersons. Here's a message for you, reform into whatever. And so one possible interpretation is the 144,000 represent an end-time people who have an end-time message for the people living on earth at the end of time. They're his spokespersons. So one could read Revelation 144 that God sends his angels saying, hold, 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 until the 144 from all people groups of the world, because they're all 12 tribes are represented, so everybody all around the world, there's a group of people that are settled both intellectually and spiritually into the truth of the great controversy and the whole story, and their characters reflected. And then four winds begin loosening, and that causes more upset and chaos on earth, and that causes people to begin asking, what's going on, what's going on? This group, having already been sealed, are on the scene all over the world to give a witness, to give a message. And from their message, a great multitude is saved. That's another possibility. Then they represent the same group. But there's evidence that supports the idea that the 144,000 and the great multitude are the same group. I kind of like the version I just gave you, but there's evidence to support that may not be right. Here's the evidence that I think would be probably the most significant that Adventists would point to. It's out of Early Writings, page 36. It says, I saw that the four angels would hold the four winds until Jesus' work was done in the sanctuary. And then will come the seven last plagues. So some might take the position that because the sealing happens while he's in the sanctuary, and it isn't until he finishes sealing people that the four winds are loosened, therefore that both groups here have to be the same group because they won't be sealed after he leaves the sanctuary. Does everybody follow why they might make that argument? I can see that argument. However, that's why we always want to read widely. Here's another quote from Ellen White out of 15 Manuscript Release, 86. The time of trouble is before us. The angels are, as it were, just loosening the four winds, but they cannot loose them yet. The church is too far behind her privilege. The people are too indolent. Many are unfaithful. So another view are that the angels are in the process of loosening, but they haven't fully loosed the winds. And during the process of loosening, the 144,000 are sealed and give their witness. And from their witness, the great multitude is saved. And after that group is saved, then the four winds are fully loosed. Thus, the loosening isn't a single moment in time. It's a process of gradually letting go, consistent with hearts hardening around the world and the Spirit gradually being withdrawn. So I still like my version, even with the other quote. And remember, there's a quote earlier that I think fits with my version that I want to just remind us of, because I noticed that. Yes, so it is Satan's power that is work on sea and land, bringing calamity and distress. Remember this quote? For Satan is coming down with the greater that. He is at work. He knows his time is short, and he is not restrained. We shall see more. So not restrained would be he's being loosened. Okay? So that kind of quote fits with my view as well. So there's a hand over here. Yes?
It would make sense to me for the 144,000 to be a certain group of people who are sealed to go out to make sure the multitude becomes sealed.
Yep. That's exactly how I think it is too. I don't think they're exactly the same group. I think they are two groups. But I can see from that one quote why people would want to make them the same group, and I'm not going to argue with them. It's okay. It's the same group. That's fine. In fact, let's move on to Tuesday's lesson. Trying to get maybe through some more of this.